House Republicans voted to refer Lauren Boebert's articles of impeachment against President Biden to the Judiciary and Homeland Security committees, setting the stage for party conflict in both chambers between MAGA cultists and their more moderate counterparts. Intrigued? Then click that like and subscribe and enjoy the video. It's not like we needed any additional proof of the fact that the Republican Party has become the most dangerous cult in the history of the United States. But just in case you need any more evidence, I'll refer you to today's events. So I reported yesterday or the day before that Lauren Boebert filed articles of impeachment against President Biden for high crimes and misdemeanors relating to dereliction of duty, apparently, and abuse of power pertaining to the southern border. Now, this is like the 15th or 16th attempt by House Republicans to impeach Biden in 2.5 years, blowing out of proportion, blowing out of the water the rate at which Democrats tried to impeach Donald Trump for considerably greater offenses, more substantive claims than what Republicans have against Biden. However, Boebert attached to it a measure which would basically force a vote on the House floor. So it would require all Republicans, moderate or MAGA, to basically go on the record and decide whether or not they want to impeach Biden. The problem is, much of the Republican base, as moderates know, want Biden to be impeached, even though most of the country does not, and it will almost certainly fail in the Senate. So it's put the Republican Party in between a rock and a hard place, which, as a progressive leftist, amuses the hell out of me, because what's bad for Republicans is really good for the country. That said, it put Republicans in an awkward position because they didn't want to be seen as voting against an impeachment effort by Biden, but they also didn't want this politically disastrous attempt to move forward. So Kevin McCarthy, losing control over his caucus, managed to work out a deal which basically reworked the resolution. Hey, instead of forcing a vote on the floor, what we'll do is modify the measure and refer it to two committees, your articles of impeachment to two committees, the Judiciary Committee, led by Jim Jordan, and the Homeland Security Committee as well, since apparently your claims are that he's been derelict in his duty and abused his power pertaining to the southern border. These would be the two committees that would be, relevant to impeaching Biden. And as you can see here on the screen, it passed on a party basis, right? Every Democrat in the House voted against it. Every Republican voted for it. So it was kind of a compromise measure, which demonstrates how tenuous Kevin McCarthy's grasp on his caucus is. So I want to show some things here because as Washington Post kind of dives into more detail, the House of Representatives on Thursday referred a long-shot effort to impeach President Biden to a pair of committees, part of a deal made by House Speaker Kevin McCarthy to appease hard-right Republicans within his ranks and avoid a potentially embarrassing split vote among members of the party. The vote to refer passed 219 to 208, with 4 Democrats and 3 Republicans not voting. Instead of bringing the resolution to the House floor, where it was not expected to pass, it will be sent to review to the House Judiciary and Homeland Security committees. Since his first day in office, President Biden has trampled on the Constitution through his dereliction of duty. Boebert said as the House floor debated the motion Thursday, every member should vote to hold President Joe Biden accountable. Democratic Representative Benny Thompson said that Boebert's impeachment attempt has nothing to do with border security, calling it yet another attempt by Republicans to distract from the legal peril facing their twice impeached, twice indicted party leader. Homeland Security Committee Chairman Mark Green said that we will dig deeply into it. I take it very seriously, our oversight responsibility, and we're going to hold people accountable. Now, I will also say that recently, when discussing impeachment, Mark Green, the same person, also told reporters that he signaled that impeaching Biden would be a terrible idea and that he's not really interested in it. So he, too, also has to kind of have a foot in both worlds because, of course, like most other Republicans, he is a coward. Jim Jordan, on the other hand, who is the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, I imagine he is quite supportive of the idea of impeaching President Biden, but we'll see, since, of course, he is also one of those far-right Republicans like Lauren Boebert, Matt Gaetz, Paul Gosar, Andy Biggs, Chip Roy, who comprise the Freedom Caucus. Now, what's funny is, according to, this is in the House of Representatives, right? So House Republicans' counterparts in the Senate, many of them are furious that Lauren Boebert did this because they know it won't pass the Senate, even if it does pass the House, and they think it's extremely dangerous to the Republican Party's ability to win elections. So what they're saying, I don't know what they're basing the president's impeachment on. We'll see what they do. I can't imagine going down that road, said Senator Shelley Moore Capito. I would agree the attention is not being paid to the border, but I don't know. This seems like an extremely partisan exercise. Senate Minority Whip John Thune, Mitch McConnell's deputy, so basically second in command of Senate Republicans, said, I'd rather focus on the policy agenda, the vision for the future, and go on and win elections, implying he knows a disastrous impeachment attempt, even against a president as unpopular as Biden, is not going to go well for Republicans. National Republican Senatorial Committee Chair Steve Daines told Axios he hasn't seen evidence that would rise to an impeachable offense, but he added that's the point of an impeachment trial. Other Republicans have basically just dismissed the issue. They're saying, look, it's a House problem. We're not weighing in on it because, of course, they have to be particularly careful. The problem is that Donald Trump is still the cult leader of the Republican Party. Both House and Senate Republicans owe their allegiance to Trump, whether they like it or not, and they have to avoid actively, directly confronting him. And Trump wants Biden impeached for retaliation against the two impeachments that were brought against Trump when he was president, as well as the fact that Donald Trump is now facing both state and federal indictments. So Trump believes this is like turnabout is fair play, and he wants something to attack Biden politically. So this is the problem. This is the tightrope that Republicans have willingly walked on. This is the position in which they've put themselves. Number one, most of them know there's no substance. This is not an impeachable offense, number one. Number two, they know that even if, for cynical purposes, they go along with an impeachment, it will fail in the Senate. Number three, they know that the American people will probably not reward them with votes in the next election, especially when Democrats can point to this and say, hey, look, when we impeached Trump, it was because he tried to stage a coup because he lost an election and tried to get a foreign actor, Ukraine, to interfere in a domestic election and get dirt on his rival. They just don't like how Biden is handling the southern border, even though, as we've discussed in previous videos, border resources, border manpower, border policies are virtually identical under Biden as they were under Trump. And as a matter of fact, we've seen a major reduction in illegal border contacts since the revocation of Title 42, as well as the enhancement of other border policies under the Biden administration. President Biden has worked out a deal with Mexico to get Mexico to commit to billions of dollars worth of border security, which is billions of dollars more than what Donald Trump ever got from Mexico. He agreed to get several South American countries to increase the number of migrants that they would accept so the United States can turn more away. So they know that this is a complete asymmetry, that the case against Trump both times was infinitely greater than what's being brought against Joe Biden. But they have a cult leader, and as much as many of them, like Mitch McConnell and others, probably don't like that, they put themselves in that position. So I have absolutely no sympathy for them. I will also point out that former Republican Congressman Joe Walsh didn't mince words. He said, "What an effing joke. My former party is not a serious party, but it is a dangerous party, and it's a cult." It is. That's a fact. That's not a matter of opinion. Literally anyone who says that the GOP is not a cult is either wrong, ignorant, or a liar, maybe all the above. The evidence is simply overwhelming, infinitely more cultish and dangerous than the Democratic Party on its very worst day. And again, Republican leaders have put themselves in that position. Donald Trump, he has victimized conservative voters, right? As frustrated as I often am with the conservative base, and as much as to some extent or another, they have some culpability in it, like many cult members, they are victims of the cultist. The Republican leadership, people like McConnell, McCarthy, and all the others, they are in a position to know better. And they didn't stop Trump when they had the chance. They didn't rein him in. They simply tried to use him to their advantage, and that's why we are where we are. It's completely the Republican Party's fault, and the Republican Party's fault alone. I want to conclude with a clip from Jim McGovern, who's a Democrat. It's about a minute long, and this is what he has to say about the impeachment effort against President Biden.
Oh my God, Mr. Speaker. Let's get real here. Nothing about this is serious. Not the process, not the intentions of the resolution sponsor, not the impeachment case, not a single damn thing. Yesterday, Republicans dishonored this House and dishonored themselves by bringing to the floor a ridiculous censure resolution against Adam Schiff because Donald Trump told them to. And today, they're dishonoring this House and dishonoring themselves by bringing to the floor a ridiculous impeachment referral resolution against Joe Biden because Donald Trump told them to. This body has become a place where extreme, outlandish, and nutty issues get debated passionately, and important ones not at all. In short, Mr. Speaker, the Republican Party is a joke.
Couldn't have said it better myself. The Republican Party is a joke. They're not a serious governing party. They're not a loyal opposition party. They're not interested in co-governing with the Democratic Party and litigating legitimate disagreements on policy for the same end. They are, as we've said, in the three-legged race of politics, the GOP, instead of fighting or arguing along the way, hey, we should go around this is the way we should go. Instead of doing that with their partner, instead they've just flopped to the ground and they're trying to hug their partner's leg and prevent them from moving forward. That's the GOP. And I don't see this working out well for the next election cycle because, again, Democrats will be able to point to Republicans and say, yeah, in the midterms, when you all were supposed to have your red wave, you promised your constituents that you would focus on inflation and Ukraine and the southern border and the wage gap and climate change and health care and, all these things, economic issues, social issues, whatever it may be. And what have you done besides, restricting women's right to reproductive rights, things like that, which are universally popular even in conservative states? Well, you spend all your time investigating Hunter Biden for the 17th time and Joe Biden, and you promise that you have evidence, but you never produce it, and your sources mysteriously vanish, and you left them in your other pants, and listen, I promise you I got them. That's pathetic. And what will also help Democrats make this case is if you and I and everybody we know are convinced to stop grading them on a curve. Hold Republicans to the same damn standard in terms of ethics, in terms of policy, in terms of values, in terms of results. Don't grade them harsher. Don't grade them weaker. Grade them exactly as you would Democrats. And what you'll find inevitably is that 99 scenarios out of 100, Democrats radically at every level outperform Republicans. Stop grading the GOP on a curve, and you'll see that it's a cult, and it should be called out that way.